Hello everyone, this episode is brought to you by Live Casino. As always, I am Matt Williamson, and let's dig into further notes from yesterday's game. Folks, football season is here, and Live Casino is where FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sports betting app, comes to life. Step up and place your bets at our self-service kiosk or with a sportsbook representative. Then cheer on your team and catch every heart-pounding moment of action on our huge 40-foot video wall. Bet, watch, and win at Live Casino Pittsburgh, Route 30 at the Westmoreland Mall. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got a lot of little things to touch on here. Start with the offense. Trubisky, I mean, his first go-around when he was a starter, very conservative with the football. Check it down a lot, not pushing the ball down the field. And what we never know about these guys are, what are they told by the coaching staff? What are their instructions, Well, in this game, he was ultra aggressive. I mean, maybe too aggressive, certainly with the picks, of course, forcing the ball into tight windows, but also did it pretty well on a lot of instances too. I mean, attempting throws he never would have tried before, completing throws he never would have thrown before, intercepting balls he never would have thrown before. But he was often successful, and his mindset was clearly different. And in a game that you knew was going to be low scoring, tight, run the ball, is he just looking at this thing saying, hey, what do I have to lose? I mean, this might be my last tape to put out before the offseason. I'm going to go down guns a-blazing. I'm guessing that's what happened, but and I don't even blame him. I mean, he's got to do things for himself as well. But I just wanted to note that, it was a different quarterback than we saw the guy that got benched, who was very close to the vest. So I think that's interesting. If he plays next week, what's he going to look like from that regard? Couple things too. Some schematic stuff that's become more of a trend. So much max protection. 7-man protections, keeping in a tight end, a back, 2 tight ends, really only having 2 receivers in routes, far more than to my liking, to be honest with you. And then sometimes you'll have Najee or Warren chip or drift out or kind of be somewhat of an outlet. That's just hard on those 2 receivers. Deontay and Pickens, both of whom played quite well. You're going to get a lot of attention with a 2-man route. And I don't know if the Steelers' protection is so abysmal that they can't survive with 5 or 6 protectors more often. So I don't love that. They did get the running backs a little more involved as receivers, which I'm in favor of. That doesn't need to be a staple of the offense, but both Warren and Harris should be catching 5 balls a game between them, something like that, and theirs are easier throws. You get good ball carriers in space past the line of scrimmage. And I've told you guys forever, Najee's a good route runner, especially for a big back with really soft hands, and Warren's good at it too. He's also good. Both are good in protection as well, as we kind of talked about. But that's sort of a positive. There was a lot of max protection, so a lot of 2 receiver routes. And as we mentioned, still only 4 targets for Pickens, who's making plays when he's, quote, covered. And I know he's on credit for 3, but there was one in the end zone that was a very good play by him that he got a DPI on. So that's just not going to cut it. So what? Do you have 6 targets over the last 2 weeks? Can't happen. Especially now that the season's basically shot. Let's see what happens when he gets 12 targets a week going forward. Rain or shine. If they're rolling protection his way, throw him a quick slant. Throw him a bubble screen. Heaven forbid, an in-breaking route deep, a post, a deep dig. It makes me crazy. Gunner, I know they're searching for a third guy, and maybe Sims doesn't have to play all the snaps. He just offers nothing as a receiver. He continues to play a lot, goes back to the blocking and the toughness and the end-arounds. Well, that's all great, but we need to score points here, and we need to create big plays, and we need to get open. And Gunner doesn't do any of those. I told you yesterday about that stat about early downs with only 1 tight end on the field. It's stewing in my mind that Gentry's playing that much more than Freiermuth in that situation. That's in lunacy to me. Of course, the logic in defending it'll be, well, he's a better blocker. We want to run the ball. Well, he didn't really run the ball, and he's not that great a blocker, and he offers nothing as a receiver. And Heyward and Muth a star who's on the sideline holding his helmet. Crazy. Yet all of that, I don't even know it's just that bad, but I just didn't know this number until this morning. The Steelers allowed 6 quarterback hits over the course of the game. I don't really have a problem with that number. Their protection certainly wasn't great, but if you are max protecting a lot, you would like that number to be a little less. It's not an egregious number, especially as much as they threw the football. I mean, so you're going to, and they actually push the ball down the field. So you're going to get quarterbacks hit more whenever they hold the ball a little longer as routes develop. But I didn't see that 6 hit number until today, so I just wanted to throw that out there. This was a weird game, of course, because the Ravens are weird. But so are the Falcons and so are the Panthers next week in terms of extremely run heavy. But what we saw in this game was a lot of the 3-man D linemen, big guys, a nose tackle and 2 D ends, 2 Cam Heyward types, 2 edge dudes who most people call outside linebackers, but they don't back the line, as well as 3 inside linebackers. So they did that a high percentage of the time, and that's not unique against Baltimore. That's something they employ quite a bit. So it's almost like a 5-3 is the best way to think about it, with 3 defensive backs on the field, often only 1 corner. Rarely do defenses in today's NFL play with 1 corner on the field. You might see more with 4 corners than you do with 1 across the league. And I'm not even saying it's wrong. I mean, this team doesn't throw. You want to beg them to throw. Their receivers stink. So I have no problem with the tactics, but it's scarier that they got gashed so much with all their run defenders on the field. I mean, they have all their big people on the field, all the run defenders on the field against their big people and run blockers, and it still had that result. My last little nugget here before the break, 27.3 net yards per punt by Pressley Harvin. Now, I've been a little bit of a defender of him because I've watched him in camp just boom things and do rare punter stuff, but the inconsistency now is too overwhelming. This can't be tolerated. I mean, maybe for the rest of the year or whatever, but you can't just go into camp and say it's his job. However, if you watch the game, he got 2 awful bounces too. I mean, do I know enough about punting? Should this have been an end-over-end one? Should this have been a knuckleball to avoid those bounces? I don't. But he did have 2 awful bounces. But this is a trend with him in terms of inconsistency. Quick break here. Quick sip of my water. We'll be up with some thumbs up, thumbs down, and another little nugget. Not a ton of thumbs up. Deontay, I thought, played Deontay and Pickens. Everyone's going to give Deontay a hard time because he ran backwards again. It was like 1 yard. It's a problem. His football IQ is not exactly off the charts. Doesn't mean he's dumb. That's not what I mean. Situationally, he does some things that make you crazy. But overall, watching the game a second time, I thought Pickens and Deontay really played well. I mean, that those guys did their job and more. A third receiver is very much in the cards, is moving up my wish list more and more for the offseason. Talked about Heyward and Muth a little in terms of his usage. Well, his play was great. His usage is the problem. I mean, he needs to be on the field every snap, or 90% of the snaps. He looks great. He's getting open. Trubisky's forcing him the football, which led to some interceptions, because he's doing good things as a route runner and he's a weapon. The new dude, I mean, again, I'm down on Gentry, is Connor Heyward. And again, Connor and Gentry are so different, but the movement skills and playmaking skills that Heyward brings to the table is enticing. And at this stage, I want him to play 25 snaps, not 12. He's also a pretty good blocker. I mean, he's not a hammer. He's not 270 and 6'6", but he understands leverage. He's tough. I want more Heyward and Muth, less Gentry, drastically. Watching this game a second time too, I thought TJ was better in this game than he's been since injury, the last 2 games or whatever. Of course, he didn't get as many opportunities to rush the passer and really tee off, so he's not going to get 5 sacks in this game, but he played a very high percentage of snaps, even for when he's healthy. So I thought that was really good. A step in the right direction. Edmonds was really good. I mentioned the safety tackles numbers. He was near the box a lot. He was on Andrews a lot. Played a real solid game. Minka was even better. I thought Minka was all over the field, used in a variety of ways. Those 2 were often, as I mentioned, the 3 defensive backs, along with Sutton, who also had an excellent game. Last night I said, boy, I thought the defensive backs covered well. Not that Wallace was bad or any of those guys, but Wallace only played 28 snaps. I mean, that was number 2 amongst the corners. That's a crazy number. I mean, for the second most corner snaps to only be 28 snaps, and he did fine. Sutton played almost every down. Edmonds and Minka were out there the whole time. So it was those 3. And the back half of the defense played really well. I mean, run and pass. The front 7 was junk. My thumbs down, Gunner, Gentry. I often think this way, and I said this often about like Ray McLeod last year. Like if those guys are on the field, the defense says thank you. I want to play against Gunner. I want to play against Gentry. What you bring as a toughness blocker, whatever, doesn't trump your lack of playmaking skills. They're too easy to play against. They're too easy to game plan against. And when they're on the field, it's easier to roll coverage to Deontay and Pickens and play the run and all that stuff. Probably goes without saying, the run blocking was bad, but I'm going to single out the interior of the O-line in particular. That's a very good group of run stuffing D tackles. We know that, but their run blocking in this game was subpar, guard, center, guard. The short of it, the entire front 7, or in this case, front 8, the entire D line. Well, no, not the outside linebackers. Watt and Highsmith did not play poorly. I mentioned Watt before. So the entire D line room and the entire inside linebacker room, thumbs down. Ugh. And then there was 3 Ravens I thought played well or noteworthy. Their center, Linderbaum, smaller guy. Never thought he fit their scheme. I loved him coming out of school, though. He had a heck of a game. Manhandling whatever nose they put over him, getting to the second level. He was really good. I warned you about Patrick Ricard, their fullback / move guard. He was great in this game as well. And then the thumbs down was, I think, their best corner was Humphreys. Steelers went after him with Pickens, Johnson, down the field, and had success. I thought they would shy away from him, but that was encouraging. Last little nugget is, I really think the message now in the building has to be something along the lines of, yeah, of course we're still alive. We're trying to win every one. But this year's performance, excuse it away any way you want, means that none of you are really guaranteed anything next year. That means coaches. That means scouts. That means, every player. We know Kenny's going to be back and TJ's going to be back. But you really have to look at this last month and be like, it's audition time for, do we want you in camp next year? Do we want you under contract next year? And I think you have to make that clear to your position coaches, which then tell your players in the room in one-on-one situations. And I'm sure Tomlin will. So that's a wrap, folks. Over and out.